So welcome back to Discovering Life After 50 with Yvonne. So I decided that we would keep on the theme that we've been on the last couple of weeks. And due to conversations I've been having during the week, in the comments as well, I just wanted to touch on, there's no textbook for how we handle kids when they lose a parent, never mind two parents. However, there should be basic guidelines, right? I mean, God forbid that any of us are ever put to the test where we would have to take in children of any age, especially three of them. I mean, handling three kids after something like that, I can't even imagine how traumatic that would be for the people involved. Now, whether it's family, friends, the system, it doesn't matter, really. But more predominantly for family, right? It's going to be traumatic for family, especially for something that's so emotive and nobody's ever dealt with before. And maybe it's because I've experienced it. I know what not to do. I mean, yeah, for me, there was definitely decisions made back then that were wrong, were just basically wrong. However, who am I to know what goes on in others' heads? Do you know what I mean? But at the same time, if there was someone sitting in front of me telling me their life experience, now whether you think they're right or wrong, it matters not a jot, because it's their experience, and that's all that I'm trying to get across. It's my experience, my lived experience. It's not that I'm taking a swipe at anyone, or because, like I said, decisions getting made in that situation, you never know. You can never know what actually was going through somebody's head, right? Although, I hasten to add, there's a basic fundamental way of handling things. And maybe there should be a textbook for the basic way of handling things. Don't know, is that something worth looking into, do you think? I don't know. I just know what my experience was. I mean, I remember, my experience was so bad, but it was so understated. I went through a period of my life when I was 14, and I remember it clear as day, where I would come, where I lived, I went to the high school, and you could walk to the high school, and you had to walk through the primary school to get to the high school. So I used to walk my sister to school every morning, drop her in at the school, and then I would carry on over the bridge into the high school. And once I'd actually settled in, I mean, that was a traumatic experience in itself, changing schools at 14 years of age. The very first day, I was walking home, and there was a bollard. There was 3 bollards, but one of them had fallen over, and of course, blind, didn't see it, and I went right over the top of it, and I had the school coming at my back. So you can imagine how embarrassing that was. And on that first day, even the school, the position that we were in, I'm not entirely convinced maybe even the school knew. I don't know, right? There's nobody to ask to find out. Did they actually know our circumstances, like myself and my brother in that high school? I don't know if they did or didn't. I mean, they weren't along in finding out if they didn't, but it's like you walked into the classrooms, and I'm all for people treating you as normal, but this wasn't a normal circumstance, right? This was me going to a brand new school in the region of 4 weeks after I had just lost my parents. So I was already in a state of like otherworldly. I hadn't a clue what I was doing, and I was made stand at the front of every class while they waited to see where I was going to sit. And it's things like that as a kid that lives with you, because it was like there was a big arrow above your head to say, oh, she's the new lassie. And then it was even worse if anybody knew what had happened to me, because then there was another arrow. Oh, by the way, feel sorry for her. I mean, it was just the most horrendous time. It was the most, but it was never going to be a pleasant time, let's be honest. But there was just so many other things happened that made every situation worse, you know. And I made friends quickly. It wasn't like I didn't make friends. I made friends quickly. I mean, I walked home with a team of lassies, 2 sisters and a neighbour of theirs, Carol, Linda and Wendy. And I'll never forget the lassies, because they took me under their wing, and that was me for the whole of my high school 2 years, whatever length I was there. And I'm just like, it's strange how memories come back to you, and when memories come back to you, and it's trying to place them, like, and make sense out of them, because obviously they memories were memories of me when I was a kid. I was 14, but I was an older kid, so I mean, I can go off on a tangent, and I will probably go off on tangents, but to be fair, this is just a diary for me anyway. And I'm just like, there was so many things happened, and that from I was about, well, for 14 straight through to I was 17. There's quite literally 2.5 years in there. There's quite literally I could write a book about that 2.5 years. And that's not to mention prior to 14. That's not to mention my life prior to that. But there's so... What's the reason for telling the story? And because I keep saying that this is like a diary, right? A diary for my grandkids to learn who I am. Why do my grandkids need to know all this? But it's not just for them. It's for me as well. And my aim is eventually to write a book. I want to write a book, and I want it to be based on real life stories and real life experience. Will it be fully real life? No. But I want it to be based on, I want to write a book, and I've always wanted to write a book based on my life as I knew it, as I understood it. Is that unrealistic? I don't think so. I don't think so. I've got a podcast running. I'm now doing TikTok shop. I'm now doing, well, TikTok, period. I've got this. I mean, this has all happened in the last, I think this is episode 14, I think. Can't remember, it could be 15. So for 15 weeks I've been putting out these, or 14 or 15 weeks I've been putting out these episodes, 10, 15, 20 minutes long, whatever they are, with the aim that there's a history there for the kids and my son when I'm no longer here. There's something for me to collate, like as the memories fall out my brain. This is here for to collate, to put all that together into a book, because that's the ultimate aim. I would love to be an author. I would love to be an author. But if you told me 6 months ago I would have a YouTube channel, I would have a podcast showing both on YouTube and Spotify, with shorts all going out on TikTok every week, every other day. If you'd said that to me 6 months ago, I'd have laughed. And that's exactly what's happened. So I'm trying to manifest good things in life. I think there's too much crap going on in life now. And to go back and forth on losing my mum and dad, to go back and forth on that made me the person I am today. That's all part of my foundation. And what happened before that, and what came after it. Is anybody interested in hearing this story? Probably not. But there's also another fundamental wish that anyone that watches it and anybody that listens, there's perhaps someone in the same situation as me, perhaps someone that didn't know or didn't understand or has never really wanted to until now to know how to express themselves, and this just might help, you know. And whether it's to do with you losing your parents, whether it's to do with menopause, whether it's to do with thyroidectomy, any topic that I talk about, if there's someone out there that watches this that this could help, then I would be literally over the moon. Because this is what this is about as well. It's about any listener that reaches in and goes, well, that happened to me. And maybe I'll give how I handled a situation, and it just maybe give that little spark, and it might help somebody get on a better part of their journey. Because these kind of things affect you for the rest of your life. They make you who you are, and you never ever forget them. You forget incidents, and you forget. Sometimes you wonder if you can even remember their faces, you know. And I do, because I've got a picture in the living room, but not just because of that. But I mean, everybody on the planet has got a story to tell. We're all unique to ourselves. We're all unique stories to ourselves. There's no exact replica of you. So the hope and the wish would be that I could help, that anything that I say might help to navigate a path, or reach out. Just reach out and have a conversation. I mean, if that's all it takes, then I would be absolutely delighted. Absolutely delighted. So basically, this episode, to wind it up, was to say there is no textbook in how you look after kids when that happens to you. But there should be fundamental, basic rules on how to handle it. There absolutely should be. If something like that happens to anyone, God forbid, then whoever it is that's ultimately responsible for those kids, they should be handed a basic textbook, because humans are unique. We all don't react the same. We all don't respond the same, and we all handle things differently. So kids are no different from that. They're no different. To be treated as a group, not a group, but a trio. And ultimately, we get split up. And I believe that done my brother more harm than good. Would it have changed the way his life is? I don't know. Maybe no. How would you ever know? But I wholly believe that weekend, my mum and dad died. My sister went to my mum's friends and stayed the weekend, and he was left in the house. And I wholly believe that had an impact on him, because he didn't even one, he'd lost his parents that very night, and then two, his two sisters walked out the front door for 2 days. Or it felt like 2 days. It could have been the Saturday we came back, but I'm sure it was the Sunday. And I'm just like, he was given the opportunity to come. He said no. However, at that point, it should have been, well, it's all or nothing. And I totally 100% regret that I allowed that, because we got the option to leave. I don't even know. I couldn't even tell you what possessed me to leave. I just couldn't tell you. But there's a load of things there's basic things that we should do under these circumstances. Bear with me a wee second while I plug you in, because I've just seen my battery light coming on and I don't want you to cut off. Real life. The world of technology as we know it. So there's a lot of things that God forbid I would ever be in the same situation with anybody. But is there a forum for these kind of things? Is there a support group for these kind of things? If there is, perhaps maybe that's something that could be looked at about, like maybe approaching them and asking them if there's textbook, in the fundamentals and the basics of how to handle these situations, because there's got to be basics and everybody's got to be included, especially kids of a certain age. To be excluded or warned off certain decisions, in my opinions, is completely wrong and completely out of order, quite frankly. There's certain decisions that was made back then that I explained last week that won't ever be forgotten, and you can't relive that experience, right? Who would want to? But you know what I mean. You can't relive. No, you can't have a do-over. You're being told you can't go to your parents' funeral at 14 years of age. At 14 and a half years of age. There's no do-over there. Once that event's gone, it's gone. So there was never closure for us. And it's frankly, it's pretty scandalous. And like I said, there's basics. There's got to be a basic to-do list of things that just shouldn't happen, or the kids should have the choice, or I don't know if there is. I've no checked, I've no looked, I've not been in any, excuse me, God's sake, yawning. I've not been in any support groups of any kind. I've not checked them out or anything. That's what I get for being up late last night. I was at Take That last night, and then we sat up for the Scotland game, and they won. So now I'm like, right, I need to go and make my dinner, and I'm late putting this out because it's usually 10 in the morning. I let this go, and I'm way late. It's what, 6:30 or something. Anyway, there's no right or wrong, is there? So basically, is that maybe, I don't know, a question? Is there support groups? What kind of support have kids got out there? How do families actually figure this out? Some will be better at it than others, but even then, like I said, I was surrounded by people that genuinely cared, like my adopted mum, for example, whom I would go back and forth and question things and ask her things, and 99.9% of the time she agreed with me, and at that point was like, well, that's wrong, and that shouldn't have happened, and this shouldn't have happened, and whatever. And that's what I mean about, there's just some things just shouldn't happen, Anyway, I'm going to wrap it up for this week, because that's us at 18 minutes of me bumping my gums. And let's see where next week takes us. But that's just food for thought out there, putting it out there that anybody that has been in my situation, knows someone in my situation, reach out, please, message me, whatever. Just, you can do it through my email, you can do it through message, you can do it private message. Is there such a thing in YouTube? Actually, don't know. Feel free. I'd love to hear from you. And if I can help in any way, I would absolutely love that too. So if you find yourself in the position, go back a couple of episodes if this is the first time you've tuned in. In fact, go back to the beginning and watch them all. But the last 2 episodes pertain to this episode. So if this is your first time tuning in, go back and watch them too. And we'll see you next week.